Welcome to Let Us Not Grow Weary podcast. We are two imperfect mamas. Gina from Berean Mama and Adrienne, myself from Autumn Hills Farm Family. We seek to encourage you and all women along their homemaking journey, even the ones who have yet to begin.
Yes, we share the good, the bad, and hilarious moments as we experience the imperfect, joyful art of living.
Welcome back, everyone, to Let Us Not Grow Weary. Gina and we are very excited for this episode tonight. It's been a long time coming, and it's surrounding, or it's about a very hot topic. And I'm not exaggerating. It is a very much debated subject within the homeschooling world. And I would think, Gina, wouldn't you agree? It's accurate to say it's a controversial subject.
I would say so.
Yeah. So without further ado, I say we just get started. So let's jump in. And so my guess is that you're all wondering what it is we're talking about. And it is the, again, much debated topic, are homeschool children really socialized? And so we're really excited to get into that. I think you know where our stance is on it, but we really want to help people kind of understand and maybe dispel, or what's the word? I can't think of the right word. Get rid of the myth that homeschool kids are not socialized. So Gina, why don't you take the reins? Because I know you have a lot of great stuff to share.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a myth, Adrienne, for sure. I mean, there's so many stereotypes that are included with socialization with homeschoolers, but I wanted to start with a quote that I had found, and it says, "Homeschool recipe for genius. More of family, less of school, more of parents, less of peers, more creative freedom, and less formal lessons." I just think that kind of sums up, what our homeschool philosophy is. I mean, not that we don't ever do lessons with our kids, but it's surrounded with family. I think that's that's so important.
Yeah. Sure.
So I thought also we could kind of start off with some stereotypes, and some of the things that people would say about homeschool families is that they're unable to function in society. How are they going to grow up to be functioning adults? How are they going to be able to go to work and have conversations? How are they going to stand in line or learn to raise their hand? That they don't actually, or they don't actually do any schoolwork, or they're not smart, or they don't have friends. And here's a good one. We're weird. I don't know. I mean, I'm weird. I know you're weird. Right?
I'm laughing because I'm weird too, and I'm proud of that. I don't know. I mean,
you know what?
I don't see it as an insult.
I agree. And I don't know. I think it's so funny. I saw this this meme about homeschoolers, and it said, "Homeschooling isn't going to make my kids weird. I'm their mother. They were doomed from the start." And I'm like, that's totally me.
Totally. And, it's kind of like, again, the myth of normal. I mean, we could get into a whole episode about that. But, normal there's really no such thing as, quote, unquote, normal. I'm not talking about the average of everything, but the same thing as, as far as really it is I like how you shared that quote, the recipe for genius. It's our goal is to educate our children and have them be successful citizens in our society, but how you go about socializing them, that's really the myth, is that the false belief that it has to be done through a public institution of education or
Exactly.
there's a certain mathematical formula, right? That people, don't you agree? They think that it must be done this way, and if it's not, well, then your kid, something's wrong.
Oh, exactly. I totally agree. And the whole thing with homeschoolers are weird. I think that kind of goes along the lines of where people think that all homeschoolers are just like super religious, right? And I mean, I think you would agree, Adrian, that religion and being a Christian are not quite the same. I mean, because we don't follow a religion per se. We follow Christ. We follow the gospel. And, if people want to think that we're weird because we follow Christ, I mean, then let them think that. I'm not going to stop following Christ for the sake of having a reputation that I'm not weird.
Right.
And so,
yeah.
And
yeah.
By the way, not all people who are Christians homeschool, and not all homeschoolers are Christians. You know what I mean? So it's like, we get that bad rap, but people don't understand Christians, and so they think we're weird because, the Bible says that the cross will be foolishness to the world. So whatever, we're weird, and that's fine with
we're
me.
a peculiar. I'm sorry. Finish what you were saying, because I was talking.
No, I'm just saying we are weird, and that's fine. You're right.
Yeah,
well,
that's
peculiar.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I was like, yeah, we're peculiar, and weird is not bad.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, we are to be set apart.
Exactly.
To be set apart. We're to be in the world and not of it. We're created to, swim against the current. So, Christians are weird.
Yeah. And not
That's just how it is.
Not that we're just sitting here trying to define what the word weird means, but in a way, to me, just to say it for a few seconds, is weird is just really, to me, just being unique. It's another way to say you're unique. We're individuals, and I don't mean that children who go to public school aren't individuals. Of course they're individuals. No one is the same as anyone else. It's just and weird is not a bad word. It's just that it gets a negative connotation associated with it for homeschoolers. And I'll admit, just a confession, because Gina and I want to share, like we said, the good, the bad, like everything with you. And we are certainly far from perfect. That's kind of the whole point here, is we're trying to share wisdom with you because it encourages us, and because we want to encourage others, and, share with you also our mistakes and stuff, or our, things that we've done that we wish, or thoughts that we've had, we wish we didn't. But I remember when I worked, just real quick, outside of the house, we had, I worked for a wonderful design firm out of state, and there was an intern, and she was homeschooled. And I remember having lunch with her in our lunch break with a whole bunch of the other gals there. But I remember thinking thoughts like, she's different. She's weird. Like, wow, what a weird, interesting education she must have had, or how interesting she must be, but almost with like in a weird sense, because I wasn't used to it. This is before I knew I would even be homeschooling. So, even myself, I'm guilty of thinking this about, just to share. But anyways, let's move on.
Oh, yeah. So. No, totally. I agree. And then, also, when you get into the public school setting, I knew a lot of weird kids in public school. I don't know about you, but just like a lot of kids that had a hard time, having a conversation with you. And I think that just boils down to the different personalities we've been given. Some people are more introverted, some people are more extroverted, and I was more of a shy kid, and I had a harder time, getting in with like the cool crowd or whatever, and then there were some kids who were painfully shy and couldn't even look at you in the eye, and I think that's just, and it's sad, like looking back on that, but that's just like our personalities. I mean, that really has nothing to do with whether you're homeschooled or whether you're not. And so that's kind of why I brought up like the super religious thing, because I think that it's not so much our education that people think is weird. I think it's more of that we're different and that we're a peculiar people. But not all homeschoolers are Christians either. I mean, there are a lot of secular homeschoolers out there, and it is a lot more like acceptable nowadays, or I don't know.
It is.
Like,
I
you know,
agree.
like there's so many people that do it now, and I'm not just talking about like the coronavirus, like just in general.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Like here in Florida, there's a huge homeschool community. Like if you go to like a homeschool like book sale or something, you would go expecting to see like everybody you know, right? And you go there and you see a few people you know, and then you see like 100 people that you've never seen before, and you're like, how are all these people like living in my community that I've never even met, like in the homeschool group? You know what I mean? Like it's just, there's so many people. But anyway, moving on.
Well, you know what? I know we should move on, but I want to add one thing. You just made me think about the people who are not Christian, the families that are not Christian that homeschool. I think, yes, definitely, agreeing with what you said, but also at the same time, I'm pretty sure they're probably looked at as weird as well. And maybe that's what you were saying, but I think it's just more that our society as a whole, even though, as Gina just stated, it is so much more accepted in our culture today in this time to be a homeschooling family versus, like 25 years ago or something like that.
Right.
Even those non-Christian families, I think people just look at the idea of homeschooling as, why aren't you putting your children in public school? Like, they don't even understand. Like, why don't you want to do that? Like, why are you not sending them away to school? Doesn't everybody do that? I think there's still, as much as it's more accepted, there's still that common, like people still don't, not everybody gets it. And they're like, why?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. And then therefore they attach the stereotype of, well, your kids must be weird or not socialized. But okay, now officially moving on.
No, I totally agree with you, though, for sure. So during the research for this podcast, I was just looking into some definitions of what socialization actually is and what it's defined like. And so one of the definitions I saw was the activity of mixing socially with others. One was the process of learning to behave in a way that is acceptable to society, internalizing the norms and ideologies of society. My thought process when I got to that was, do we really want our children to internalize the norms and the ideologies of society? I mean,
no, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's complete indoctrination. I mean, if I'm gonna have my kids learning, being indoctrinated with something, it's gonna be the truth, okay? It's not gonna be that we came from monkeys or whatever it
good
is.
Is evil. Well, basically a form of, that the good is now seen as evil and evil is now seen as good. And we understand that some of the stuff we're saying is hard to maybe swallow for some of you out there. But it is true. Obviously there's some good things here and there that you learn in society. But overall, no, we don't want our children to be quote unquote socialized by the society's norms. Exactly.
And here's another one that it's actually really similar to the first one, but I like some of the different things it says here. The process beginning during childhood by which individuals acquire the values, habits, and attitudes of a society. And then here's a really interesting quote I had found. Family is considered to be the most important agent of socialization, the principal socializer, which is like complete opposite from what I had just read above. But when did that end? I mean, when did the family stop being considered the most important agent of socialization?
I think, I mean, I think of Hitler, but I'm pretty sure it happened before this. But I think of how in Stalin and all of them, how they all these, and it's not necessarily a political per se thing, but these, well, I guess in a way it is communists, but basically they all wanted the family's children as young as they possibly could get them. In fact, in the preschool, so pre meaning before even supposedly the, kindergarten and all that, they wanted them at the preschool age because the younger, the better, to get them believing the ideologies that they were pushing, the propaganda, and being socialized, and being conformed to the way they wanted the children to be, quote unquote, socialized.
Exactly. It's control, or they wanted, how they wanted like the special race. It's just, it's separating the children from the parents, and that's what our schools do today. And whether or not, we can think that they're doing that on purpose. I mean, I don't think the principals and the teachers think that way. It's like they're doing their best. They love those kids, and they're great teachers, and they're doing their very best.
Sure.
It's the government, it's their agendas. And so
it is.
I don't know. I mean, you had a really good scripture, something about, was it being deceived with company? Was it First Corinthians?
Yes, I am going to share that, but I'm going to just for a second, just a quick little offshoot. You just made me think of the fact about empowering parents to homeschool. How we often say, like, if you can give birth to your children and raise your children, and you're able to train them up in your home, you're able to homeschool them. God will equip you, but it doesn't stop there. Like, meaning homeschool, meaning I'm focusing on just the academic parts for this point that I'm trying to make. So if you can teach them the academic part, of course you can teach them the character training, or if you want to call it the socialization, acceptable character parts. Sorry, really bad English, but hopefully everyone gets what I'm trying to say. Like, it kind of goes hand in hand. You're just living life together. But, okay, sorry. I'm going to read the scripture that you asked me to. This is the Isaiah one, right? Am I in the wrong one?
Well, you could read that one. Yeah, you could read that one too. I was thinking of First Corinthians.
Okay.
But if you want to do both right now, that's fine.
Okay. So 1 Corinthians 15:33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. So, yes, it's, in our institutions, and I have a close family member who works for the public school institution. It is all around. It is not an exaggeration to say it's propaganda. There is evil communication all around those kids. So, and it will corrupt your good manners. So no, socialization is, or the kind of socialization that we're promoting is not occurring there. You are that, yeah. Okay, so moving on. So the next scripture that Gina found that was really good is Isaiah, 5, and I'll read, I'm just going to read verses 20 through 23. So woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. So, yeah, good ones that you found.
Yeah, it's so profound. I don't know. It really reminds me of our society, especially lately, how just, you know,
Oh, yes.
sin
With
is
Antifa
considered
and all that.
fun. Yeah, I mean, sin is considered fun. It's not harming anybody, as long as you're, happy and you're not doing anything to hurt anybody, and then the people who don't agree are getting persecuted, and it's just, I don't know. So
well,
here's a quote. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, you just made a really good point, like what you said, but now it's even crazier than what you just stated. Like now it's like, because you said, I believe you said, I don't want to misquote you, you said, as long as you're not like hurting anyone, right? That's the typical philosophy or belief that people have. But now people are hurting each other. Like that's when I brought up Antifa and like all these other things, which no, we're not going to get into a whole bunch of current events and stuff right now, and at least in this episode and future ones. But now they are hurting people, and it's still seen as, or not still seen, it is seen as okay. It's even getting worse, I guess is my point.
You're right. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, it's like abortion and just everything. And we're going to get into that in another episode. But
yes,
I mean, it's just crazy how things are getting so twisted and completely out of line with Scripture. One of the quotes I had found, it says, one of the first things a family tries to teach its children is the difference between good and evil, right and wrong. And one of the first things our schools do is destroy that distinction. So I don't know. I think that goes along with, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. One of the things too is like, I think that, people think that us homeschool moms that we don't want our kids to have friends, but that's not true. I mean, my kids have friends, your kids have friends. And, Adrian, you have a lot of neighborhood kids, right?
Oh yeah. We moved out of our old, tiny little sort of tucked away neighborhood that we lived in for about 3 years. And we now currently live in a community which is strangely further out in the country by farms and stuff, which is nice. And it was this small little tiny town, but we're sort of out on the outskirts of it in the country. And it's, despite that though, it's a very populated, little neighborhood here. And there's a ton of children that are all, I think almost all are, public, or at least I haven't met any otherwise they're all public school trained. And my friends, we're not saying we're that's ridiculous. Okay, we're not saying you cannot be friends with someone who goes to public school. That is just wrong. Our children are going to meet all different kinds of people in their lives while they're young and while they're older. And they have made some really great friends. But I will say that, especially regarding the scriptures that we were just discussing, I do have to be careful. We, my husband and I have to be careful, have to have boundaries. We try to have them at our, on our property and stuff. But of course they go off, they ride bikes and play and stuff. But it is something that I want to be careful with. And it's not because I don't like these children. They're actually really nice kids. But it is because they are more worldly, and that is something that we are warned about as Christians, that we have to be, we have to guard our hearts.
Right, exactly. I mean, definitely. And it's ideal to be friends with like-minded people. And if you don't have that, you guys have the neighborhood children, you're still, the difference is you're still there to monitor, to correct your children, to explain to them things. Whereas if they're in school all day, the parents don't know what they're being told from their friends. They don't know what's happening. They don't know who they're talking to, what they're talking about.
Yep.
And,
That's true.
ideally we would want our friends to be close with like-minded people for the most part. I mean, not everyone's going to have exactly the same theology, but we want to have friends with people who have strong values, good morals. We're not trying to keep our kids in a bubble, but we do want them to have good influences. Good well, I mean,
just kidding.
We do live in a cave sometimes, just not full year, like all year round. But we want to have good peer pressure, not bad peer pressure, and we just want to be able to guide them through those relationships. For instance, if you do a co-op, which we do a co-op once a week, and we're there with other Christians, and they're from all different types of churches. There's Arminians, there's charismatics, there's just different types of theology. However, we all are like-minded for the most part, and I'm there to monitor, what's going on. Now, I don't see everything, and I don't stand over my kid's shoulder every second. I don't mean to say that, but I'm there to correct something if something happens, or if there's some bullying going on. As parents, we're there to kind of guide our children. So
and you just made me think, even as recent as last night, I had to go out there and resolve a conflict, or help resolve. I mean, the kids are, like I said, they're all, great kids. But I had to go out there. I needed to be present and, sort of talk to them. And there are some great opportunities to share the faith with them and to kind of get them thinking about things that they're not really taught to think about. But, and I think that's fine. But again, that doesn't mean I'm going to send my children to public school to be the quote unquote salt and light and share it with them all day. I don't purposely have to, but I have no problem with them being exposed to it in our neighborhood, and it gives us an opportunity to welcome them into our home and see how we live. Again, totally imperfect. No, we're not experts, but you know what I'm saying. Hopefully everybody understands where I'm coming from with that.
Right.
That
I totally agree.
Hear a different perspective that they may not be getting from within their own homes or peers.
Now, what would you say to someone who would say, well, I send my kids to public school so that they can be the salt and the light? What would your response to that be?
Yeah, I have some old friends of mine that had that belief. I believe they still currently have that belief, and I believe they are truly Christian. I don't doubt that at all. However, their belief is that they have 3 children, that they're sending them into the system, the school system, to be the salt and light, and to, that's kind of their philosophy about it. And my whole take on that is, if that's what someone is wanting to do or is considering it or thinks it's the right thing to do, I would say, well, in theory, it sounds great. It does. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And it's okay. I know, Gina, you may not think even in theory it sounded, but in theory, I understand why they believe that or think that way. Well, why wouldn't it be a good thing? But we have to look at it as in 2 ways, I think. 2 ways. One, are they mature enough to handle being exposed to these situations all day long? Again, like you mentioned before, Gina, the parents are not there with them monitoring anything. Not that you have to be a helicopter parent, but, you're not there at all. And maybe this is 3 things. Third thing, I guess, would be, I think I'm losing my train of thought, but would be just again, homeschooling is also, we're trying to keep the family unit together. And so it's not our job to send our children to the institutions to be the salt and light. If you want to have them preach the gospel or share the gospel with their friends. That's wonderful. Have them do it with the neighbor kids. Have them visit the public schools maybe after school and, play, I don't know, play kickball or something or hang out with the kids. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't willingly have to send them there for socialization or to share the gospel 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then
I agree.
Even at night doing homework and further being indoctrinated. Yeah.
Totally.
And,
if you're gonna be in a place apart from your parents for 8 hours a day, being indoctrinated, and then having all this peer pressure, you cannot expect a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, even a 13-year-old to be strong enough to withstand that type of pressure, because here you are at school and all of your teachers are telling you, or your science teacher or whatever, that you came from monkeys, and everybody else in your class is saying that it's okay to be gay, and everybody else is saying, that abortion is fine because it's just a cluster of cells, so like here you are, all of your teachers are telling you this, all of the people are telling you this, and then you're going to go home and your parents are going to say, well, no, that isn't right. And they're going to say, well, Mrs. So-and-so said, because I remember when I first pulled my kids out of school and I started teaching them, they were like, well, Mrs. So-and-so said, and I'm like, well, guys, I'm sorry, but that's not what the Bible says,
Wow, that's a great,
And you know why? Because those teachers went to college, so they know better than mom, right? And all of my friends believe this, and all of my friends' parents believe this. So, why wouldn't I believe them, right?
Sure. Sure.
So here's
a big
some
challenge
socialization. Yeah, so here's some things they're learning at school. They're learning to lust. They're learning to compete for status. They're learning to conform. Vanity, everything revolves around them. They're learning to bully. And children learn what they live, okay? And so I have a quote here from a man named John Taylor Gatto, and I learned about him through a really amazing godly woman. Her name is Victoria Botkin, and we're going to go ahead and link her for you guys on our website, letusnotgrowweary3.com. And she has a CD series all about homemaking and just godly wisdom, really wonderful. And so she told us about this man. I haven't read his books yet. They're on my list, but I would recommend him just because I totally trust Victoria. But she was saying that he was a school teacher and he taught in the classroom for 30 years. And then following his resignation, he authored books on the modern education. So one of them is called Dumbing Us Down, and one of them is The Underground History of American Education. But here's a quote from him. Here's something that he said. Children learn what they live. Put kids in a class and they will live out their lives in an invisible cage, isolated from their chance at community. Interrupt kids with bells and horns all the time, and they will learn that nothing is important or worth finishing. Ridicule them, and they will retreat from human association. Shame them, and they will find 100 ways to get even. The habits taught in large-scale organizations are deadly.
Wow. That is just powerful, because he has, like you said, 30 years, not just 1 year, not 0 years, 30 years experience in the public school system. And that's pretty incredible. So
and there's one of the parts I really liked about this, what he said, isolated from their chance at community. If you think about like family life, if you're learning as you go along, you're going into the community. You're going to. Oh, sorry, my daughter's in here being loud. So you're going to a farm. You're going to volunteer. Maybe at the soup kitchen, or you're going to the grocery store together. There's things that you can do as a family to benefit the world around you, and you can do it for God's glory. You can start a small family business, or you can do a co-op or 4-H or field trips with other homeschool families. So there's lots of ways to be out there in the community, not necessarily so that you can be socialized, but just as a part of living. And living your life and talking to your parents and your siblings and your grandparents, that is what makes a person socialized, living, learning as they go, learning how to communicate with people. It doesn't have to be with peers or with a certain group of people or with a certain amount of hours in a day. Because who defines that anyways? Who gets to decide who's socialized and who isn't?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing when you said communication. Like, I don't want, even though the teachers in the school systems, whether it's a Christian school, a Montessori school, whatever, any kind of system, they might be the nicest, most well-meaning professors and teachers out there, okay? This is not about insulting the person themselves. They might be great, okay? They may want the best for your children.
Right.
However,
they have good
is it their
intentions.
job? It's not their job to be teaching my child how to communicate. It's my job. It's my husband's job. It's the group family effort, and whoever lives in your home, basically, and like Gina, for example, your sister that lives with you, she's not, one might say, well, that's not part of your nuclear family. Well, she is. She is a very crucial part of your family, and that's even, I guess what I'm saying is parents, siblings, whoever lives with you on a day-to-day basis, and obviously with the authority being with the elders, meaning the parents, but we're capable of teaching our children to communicate, to be polite, to have good manners, to guide them when they have bad manners. And, to add what Gina said about encouraging your children to kind of get out there and be with an array of different kinds of people in different ages to avoid that age segregation that these school institutions offer is, well, our family does not do co-ops, but that's certainly an option for so many. And it's really what you enjoy and what works well for you. But, some suggestions that I would just throw out there are just having family time together. And that might be simply going to the store or working on a project, building, I don't know, a piece of furniture or shelves or staining or painting something. It doesn't always have to be watching a movie or playing a game, but it can be. Hiking. I think trail hiking is a great way, you're being active, exercising, enjoying nature together. It's just wonderful. And then I've said this before, but laughing together. Find as many opportunities as you can. Here's my weirdness coming out, but to be silly. There's definitely throughout the day times, and I know you would agree with this, Gina, to be serious. And, not saying that you should be laughing every second of the day. You have to be serious, of course, depending on what you're teaching your kids or what time of the day it is and things like that. But any opportunity you have to just be silly and then playful and whatever that means to you, telling jokes, just whatever. Enjoy your life with them. That is right there. That's enough for socialization.
I agree.
In my opinion, I mean, I can only share with you what I believe. And of course, I didn't say this because I thought you mentioned it, Gina, but the daily living, which I don't think we need to spell that out, but going to the stores, going shopping, going out to the park. Yeah, you're meeting all different ages, and the kids are fine. And the kids are going to flourish and grow when they're ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point, Adrian, because like I was saying before, how there was like people in my class or people, in school that were like painfully shy, like they couldn't even like look at you in the eye or whatever it may be.
Oh.
People grow at different rates. And so like when you're a school and you're in like a group of peers and you aren't maybe as mature as, the person next to you, you can kind of get looked down upon. But you're just like maybe not ready for that type of interaction, because I'll be right there, sweetheart. So kids grow at their own, their own rate. And go to the library. Teach your kids to ask the librarian questions, or put them on a sports team or something. There's lots of ways for us to get out there. So like the notion that we just like live in a cave, and like live in a bubble and like don't do anything is such a myth. It's so not even true. We do a lot as a family. We really do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And that's the key as a family.
It is. It's doing, yes, I agree, but I also want to add, like, definitely it's being active together as a family. That's extremely important. And sometimes that's hard for families, especially, with all that goes on, teaching your kids, making meals, maybe you have other activities, whatever it is. But yeah, finding time to be together, be active, but also, I'll say like, and no, I'm not comparing the home to a cave or a bubble, but like your home is something that is I want to say noble, but it's a place, I believe, provided to us by God. It's supposed to be a peaceful place. Now, obviously, we're sinners. There's going to be times of maybe some chaos here and there, and you have to work on some character issues and things like that, of course. But being in your home is a blessing. And so much can be done even just within the home, in your backyard, front yard, and all that stuff. But yeah, venture out, go out, just live your life, whether it's in the home or out. Don't fall victim to thinking that you can't teach your children, you can't socialize them, you're not equipped, and that you're going to have other people do it. Because that, to me, that's weird. I'm sorry. No,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sort of being sarcastic, but I mean, it's be confident.
Like we only have a
ability.
few short years with our children, and so like watching our kids grow up and learn is like the biggest blessing that we'll ever have. And why would we give that blessing to someone else? Like why would we do that? I mean, I think about like my daughter, she's 15 and I've only got like 3 more years left or 2 more years of school after this year. And I'm just like, what?
Shocking.
Like I only have 2 more years after this because I don't know, like it goes by so fast, and I'm so thankful that I'm able to be with her every day and get to see her grow and, I don't know.
Well, you could go on.
It's just a blessing.
I do know of a family who actually, her daughter, they stopped, I guess, around 17, maybe, around there, give or take. But then there was still one class that she had not, I say class, but like it was one subject that she had not, she wanted to finish. She just chose that there was a little bit more that she wanted to complete. And she was in her early 20s. And she just enjoyed, she just wanted to have that satisfaction of having it done. So you never know.
That's awesome. Yeah, well,
they have
and
more
like,
years
I'm not
if
saying
you enjoy
like
learning.
after those, right, yeah. And I'm not saying like after 2 years she's kicked out. Like, no, I hope she stays until she's married. But
yes,
I'm just saying, just how fast it goes. And then, giving that blessing to someone else, it's like, why?
I know. That's a great way. I think that's a great way to close in a thoughtful way, to have maybe anyone who's listening out there who maybe doesn't agree with us or only partially agrees with us. Think about it. If you're having your children leave the home every day to go away to school, why are you giving that blessing away? Whether you're Christian or not, okay? You know what we mean, I think, by blessing. Gift. Call it a gift, okay? Why would you want to give that away? And don't get Gina and I wrong. Again, as we've said over and over, we are imperfect. Do we like to have quiet time sometimes? And, just do we need to have that time to just be refreshed here and there? Of course, okay? But ultimately, we love to be with our family, and it is an ultimate blessing from God. So think about that. And it's never too late to change your mind. As Gina did, she had her children, two of her children in public school, and she changed her mind and took them out. So you can make any choice that you want. Don't feel, I guess, pegged in. But I'll just leave you with that. Just moving on, just for our next episode, Gina, there's so many different things that we're excited to discuss, but I know obviously we can't do it all in one episode, but we were thinking of sort of taking a turn from the homeschooling topic and kind of veering off of that just a little bit, even though it's sort of a part of our everyday lives anyways, but and discussing an even more controversial topic, but the topic of abortion, and really sharing some our thoughts and beliefs about that and what God says. And we hope that you tune in for that. And we're, I would think, like, Gina, is that going to be our next one, or do we want to do another midweek encouragement?
Well, I guess we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll just leave you hanging. You'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, well, definitely our next real podcast will be abortion, but maybe we can try and slip in a midweek encouragement.
Yeah, and definitely. We'll just see. We kind of Gina and I, we're very busy. We just sort of, we've been enjoying this, but it is sometimes a lot of work in trying to figure out how to, we won't bore you with the details, but we enjoy it, and we just can't always tell you exactly when the next one will be out, but we're aiming for next week. And as always, if you would leave a review, if you're enjoying these episodes, leave us a review, please. Reach out to us on our Facebook page, Let Us Not Grow Weary. Our website, letusnotgrowweary3.com, is a growing website. There's more features we're adding to it than are already existing, and please check it out if you have not. And also, if you go on our main platform, which is our YouTube channel, we would love if you could like the episode and click the notification bell, and even subscribe to our channel. Just gives you alerts that we have a new episode up, but it is helpful to us. So, but anyhow, again, thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to next time. So y'all have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Have a good evening. Till next time.